Hello, and today we're doing another special video. It is the 2020 to 21 season predictions for this year's championship. Watford, my team, Watford till I die. We are in the championship, back again, just like in 2014 to 15. Relegated last season, we want to bounce straight back up. We think we can boss the championship, but it's a tough league to get out of. Brentford are going to be wanting revenge after getting knocked out in the final. Leeds are through to the Premier League, but their Yorkshire derby, rivals really, the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, the likes of Barnsley, they all want a taste of Premier League football. Will it happen? Let's find out next. Here we go. It's time for my table prediction for this championship season. But before we do get into it, there's a few things I've got to get through. And firstly, who do I think will be top scorer? Well, I've said it before, but let's just remind, in this championship season, if he stays, that is, I think the top scorer will be Ollie Watkins. And I reckon he'll get 20 goals. Now, my backup for Ollie Watkins, originally I said it would be Troy Deeney, but unfortunately, a move for Troy Deeney to West Bromwich Albion looks on the cards. So I'm going to edit that and submit it for the final time. Ollie Watkins, the first one, with 20 goals. But if that doesn't work, I'm going to change it and go with a player who really does love scoring goals. It is Nahki Wells. He just gets so many goals for Bristol City, and I think he'll have a great season if Ollie Watkins does leave Brentford. So if Watkins goes, then Nahki Wells will be the top scorer, getting 24 goals.
Right, well, I can in fact reveal that today, when we are doing reaction to my championship season predictions, it's a special day, and I can in fact reveal it was wrong. It was wrong, that top scorer prediction. I did well to have a backup because I had a feeling Watkins would leave. He did, of course, have a great season with Aston Villa, but Nahki Wells, we had an absolute stinker there. I mean, oh dear, that is not what you like to see at all. Like, I just thought he'd do well. I mean, he started the season pretty well, but yeah, it's not good. It really isn't. So let's move on very quickly. 24 goals I went for Nahki Wells. In fact, we know the top scorer was absolute legend Ivan Toney. Now, I'm pretty confident that the playoffs and that doesn't basically factor in for the top scorers, but it might do. So let me just double check that for you people, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. So top scorer Ivan Toney with an absolutely unbelievable 31 goals. I mean, you can't say he's not deserved it. He's just been absolutely fantastic, making the step up from Peterborough to Brentford. So yeah, 32 goals actually now. So it does look like it carries over because he was on 31 before that game with Bournemouth at the Brentford Community Stadium. So it's easily going to be Ivan Toney as top scorer because the only man that's close to him who's still got more games to go is Danjuma, and well, he's been knocked out. So unless Andre Ayew manages to completely defy the odds and in that final at Wembley score 20 goals, it's not going to happen. So we can safely say Ivan Toney is the top scorer this season. Fair enough. Watford nearly got him. That's the thing that really stings the most. We nearly got him, and we were linked with him from Peterborough, and it was one of those ones. It was a ship that sailed, and we just couldn't do it. And now, when his price has gone up so much, his value has risen so much, it's one that we can't go for, and it's a shame, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So let's carry on, and let's see who I predicted for the top scorer of this season, in terms of assists. So the top assister, I should say.
Then we have the surprise package. Well, obviously Wickham. The underdogs, I think, will be Blackburn. I rate their team, and they could come back into that mix of the top 10. Then teams to watch, Rotherham, they just got promoted. They have the confidence. Brentford, they just missed out last season, and they still have got a very good squad, but it depends on if they can keep their players, of course. Nottingham Forest are another team to watch. But then a team that could absolutely storm the Championship this season is Norwich City, because of the fact they played so well, not last season, but the season before. And they do have that sort of team that suits the Championship. But can they keep hold of some of their best players? Well, the likes of Emiliano Buendia would be massive for them. Would he stay? Unlikely, but if he can, then I reckon he will be the top assister for this Championship season. If he leaves, then I think it will be Mbeumo from Brentford, and I reckon that Mbeumo will probably stay out of those Brentford players that are linked with moves away. So Mbeumo, or Mbeumo, however you say it, will be the backup for Buendia, but Buendia's got to be getting the most assists, and I reckon he could get a total of 19 assists if Buendia stays, and if it's Mbeumo, probably 17.
So that's what we went for the top assisters, and I can reveal we were bang on the money. Thank you very much. That is lovely stuff. Brian Mbeumo, no thank you. It was in fact instead Emi Buendia, like we said first time. Come on. It's what you love to see. I mean, first of all, to have that in as a prediction is bold, because as I mentioned, it looked like he might leave Norwich City, but he stayed, and what a season it was. 16 assists, 15 goals. So I was only 3 assists from it being completely spot on, but that is what you love to see, to get the top assists bang on. I mean, that is quality. And yeah, only 3 away from reality. So yeah, Emi Buendia, what a season for Norwich. As I mentioned, they are kind of suited for the Championship, and I should have, taken that and then predicted them to finish top of the league, but we didn't, unfortunately. But no, great season from him, and he will be probably moving on very soon. I don't know if he's going to stay at Norwich in the Prem, but he's just so good for that club, and he's got so much of a creative mindset. What a season. I think he's probably the best player in the division for me, behind the likes of Ivan Toney, Ismail Assar. There's been a great campaign from him, and a great campaign from Norwich City in general. So yeah, Brian Mbeumo actually wasn't too far away with assists, in 5th place with 10, but I just backed Buendia over him. He was my first choice, and that was a great shout. So get in there, my son. Let me tell you that basically the scoring system for this, if you get a correct position in the table, it's 15 points. If you get 1 position out, it's 9 points. 2 positions out is 3 points. And a correct player is 5 points. Now, I didn't actually say this in my original video, but I would do this thing where if I get the number of that player, whether that be top scorer, top assister, if that's bang on, then you get an extra 20 points, because that's amazing. But I haven't, obviously. I've been 3 off there, but still the correct player. So we didn't get any points for that Naki Wells prediction, but we do get some lovely little points. I say that, but did we get the right amount of goals? No, we didn't. 24 goals. It was 32 right now for Tony. So yeah, that was a bit far off. But we'll take Buendia. You love to see that. And that is 5 points to kick us off in good fashion. So finally, we've got most clean sheets. What have I gone for in this prediction? Let's have a little look, shall we, people? 5 points so far.
But the predicted most clean sheets, who do I think will be the goalkeeper with the most clean sheets in this division? I'm actually going to go with an outside choice, but it is going to be Freddie Woodman, the guy that plays currently for Swansea City. He's played very well recently, and he's a young, up-and-coming goalkeeper with lots of talent. Off on loan, I think, at Swansea, coming from Newcastle, and I just rate the guy. So Freddie Woodman is my top clean sheets prediction, and of course I follow lots of YouTubers, and Blackburn Rovers is one of them that I always keep an eye on, and he's done his table predictions already.
So yeah, stop talking about Blackburn Rovers, but let's check how effective we were in that prediction for the top championship clean sheets for this season. I can reveal that top of clean sheets this season in the division of the Championship is Freddie Woodman. Oh, you love to see it. Now, just like with Ivan Toney, this kind of statistic is still could be changed because he's got one more game. If he keeps a clean sheet versus Brentford, he's gone and got 22 to end the season. But from 47 games, 21 clean sheets, that is fantastic. And that would mean he would end on 22 if he got another. But what did we say for how many clean sheets he would get? We said a whopping 21. I don't believe it. So if he doesn't concede, if he concedes versus Brentford in the final, we have got it on the money. Absolute scenes. I mean, we got Buendia right. We'll take that. But we've only gone and done it again for the clean sheets. This is absolutely fantastic. So 5 points for that Norwich prediction. And now we're potentially, as it stands, looking at a whopping 25 points, because we said it would be 20 extra points if we got it bang on, and I didn't even realise it was 21. That's madness. And we got Freddie Woodman right, which is 5 points. So we're looking right now at 30 points from a possible, well, if you get the correct number of goals, which is pretty much impossible, but I did it with the clean sheets, then it would be, of course, out of, 60 plus whatever you got for that. So you're looking at about 75. So out of a possible 75, we've gone and got ourselves a very good score of 30. So I'm happy with that. I know it sounds not that good, but when you think of how hard it is to do that, we've done very, very well. So buzzing with that. That's a great way to start my championship reactions to the early season predictions. Really can't complain with that, to get that bang on as well, the clean sheets. Right, let's move on to the big one then, shall we? It's the big one we've all been waiting for, the table predictions now. Let's get amongst it.
Fair play to him. He thinks that Watford will finish in the top 6. But do I think that? Of course I do. But let's get to it. I'm not going to spoil it, of course, because we still have things to do. But if you haven't already, make sure you check out my Premier League season predictions. I'll put it in the link in the description, because I think that Man City will be champions.
Hey, you know it. 2nd of September I did the video, and what can I say, I'm too good. But basically I will be reacting to my Premier League predictions with the season finished. That will be coming in a few days' time, so stay tuned for that, but that will be a good one as well. This one, of course, smash a like on it, comment your thoughts, and see how your predictions went after the season that's been absolutely madness without fans. It's been really good, and I hope you have enjoyed my predictions across the season. It's been a really fun season to do. People like Stoke players like Ndai, he signed for Stoke in the season they got relegated and apparently refused to play for them in the Championship, so I think they had to force him out on loan to Turkish clubs just to get his wages off the balance sheet. So that's a bit of a nightmare for Stoke, really, when I actually mentioned Ndai in the video. But anyway, let's get to it. Where did Luton finish? We will see. Where did Derby finish? We will see. What did I predict? How well did I go? Let's find out everything, basically. But at the end of the video, we will be presenting basically what it looks like as the bigger picture. But let's carry on.
4 will be Man City, Liverpool, United and Chelsea. Relegated will be Palace, Fulham and West Bromwich.
I think you'll find I got that top 4.
I think the player of the season for the Premier League will be Timo Werner. But the manager of the season has to be Pep Guardiola, especially if Man City get that trophy. But here it is, people. It's time for the predictions. So to start off, we have first position. Now, a lot of people have been saying Brentford for this spot. Blackburn Rovers has gone with Brentford. But I am going to go with Brentford. Spoiler alert, but it is Brentford, as Blackburn Rovers did do. Now, a lot of people do think Brentford are going to just come back strong this season. They have a very good team. I rate their manager as well. If they can keep him, I think they were unlucky not to get into the Premier League. But ultimately, those last couple of games, maybe the Swansea game, they got a little bit lucky and that might have made them a bit complacent going into that game against Fulham. But yeah, against Fulham, they just didn't turn up really and struggled to really penetrate the cottages. So yeah, I think Brentford need to pick themselves up, dust themselves off and get better. But success for this season for Brentford is all about whether they can keep their players. It's whether they can keep Saeed Benrahma. It's whether they can keep Ollie Watkins. And if they can, they could be pretty much unstoppable this season. I think the player of this championship season probably will be Ollie Watkins. I think he'll probably, if he stays, be the best player in the league, and hence why I've gone with him to be the top scorer. But if not him, then I'm going with Naki Wells. But anyway, that is interesting. That could take place, but we just don't know how Brentford are going to do in terms of keeping those players. In goal, I think they've got a very solid keeper in David Raya, and although he did make that mistake in the final against Fulham, he does have a lot of quality, and the signing of Ivan Toney from Peterborough is really going to bolster their team, Brentford. And unfortunately, Watford don't get him. We were linked with Toney at some point, but it's not to be, and he's going to be a Brentford player next season. But yeah, I just love Brentford's team. I think they have a lot of good players, and they have a nice mix as well. Can they keep hold of them? I think probably most of them, but the likes of Ben Rama and Ollie Watkins, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go, especially Ben Rama has been with a move to Tottenham. So, yeah, that's what I think. But I think Brentford still have enough regardless. Their team is just quite solid throughout all the pitch, and definitely they will be top of this championship season. So they're getting the title. But who do I think will get automatic promotion in that second spot?
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Brentford we went for. We know it was Norwich City, so we got that one wrong. I don't know. I just felt like Brentford were just going to really smash it. I'm not sure why, but I think I saw that Ivan Toney transfer. I thought he was going to do really well, and look at what he did. I saw David Raya. There was rumours of him going to Arsenal the season before, so I thought maybe he was going to have the best season possible whilst he was still there. And yeah, I just thought that Brentford would really be hard to stop with that team. They were very, very close to promotion last season through the playoffs, but I just thought they'd have that step up. I ranked Thomas Frank as a manager. He's very good. I ranked some of their defenders, and I thought that people like Marcus Force, in playing forward, and of course on the wing you've got Tarek Fosu, you've got Brian and Buemo. They're all good, decent players, and I thought they just gelled together, and they have gelled together this season, but not enough for the playoffs. And instead, Norwich City were the champions. So Brentford actually end up finishing third. Part of the playoffs, of course, could still get into the Premier League, but it certainly has been a good season for the Bees, and they'll be very happy about that. But not happy about it for me, because we start off this predictions with an incorrect one there. I really just felt it was going to be happening, but it didn't. So instead, Norwich City, you got to give them all the credit. They've been the runaway champions, really. I mean, Watford just flirted with it a little bit, and towards the end where they beat them at Carrow Road, and you thought, oh, maybe Watford are still in the fight. But nah, Norwich have been sensational. You've got to give them all the credit. It's now the difficulty for Norwich. Can they actually stay in the Premier League? They're one of those yo-yo teams that go up and down. It's like, well, they've got that really good level of commitment and quality when they're in the Championship, but can they make that in the Premier League? That will be the difficult part. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, but I think that it's not a bad prediction. Brentford were there or thereabouts, not quite fighting for the title, but they were certainly up there. So I don't think it's a disgraceful prediction. I think we could have got a lot worse there, and I know some people that predicted Derby to win the league. So, yeah, it could have been a lot worse. But in terms of the difference to what I predicted, Norwich, of course, were top. Brentford finished in third. So that is -2 difference from what actually happened. But let's move on to the next position then, shall we? Here we go.
Going with Watford. My team, Watford. Now, a lot of Watford fans would be like, nah, no way, mate. We're going to easily get the league. But the Championship is not easy. Now, second spot for Watford is optimistic. But as a Watford fan, that's all I can be, optimistic. And off the back of last season, we really need that feel-good season back at the Hertfordshire club. We really do have a squad that is too good to go down. And we didn't really play well enough in the last 5 games. And that is why we did go down. It's as simple as that. But we saw in that Liverpool game, we can be the best of the rest. We can do well. But it's just consistency with us. We're up one week, down the next, and we brought in, Vladimir Ivic, the Serbian international. And the last time we did bring in a Serbian manager, it was, of course, the legendary Slavisa Jokanovic, who got us promoted in 2014-15. But Vladimir Ivic plays a different style of football that, Watford fans probably be used to. They probably plays a 4-3-3 formation, which is a bit more attacking. But
defensive.
Vladimir Ivic, or Ivic, however you pronounce it, does like to give youngsters a go. So the fact that we have so many good players from younger ages, like the people like Domingos Quina and Luis Suarez, and also coming back from the loan, Ben Wilmot.
Luis Suarez.
A big role this season, but I just pray that we can do enough to get automatic promotion, because finishing in the top 6 will be tough. A few people saying that we might just finish out that top 6 and maybe 7th or 8th. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen, because, as I said before, the Championship is not an easy league. It's a physical grind. You need such strength and depth. And we have brought in Glenn Murray on loan, which I think is a lovely little signing. Could definitely be useful towards the end of the season. We might not play him every day, every game, because he is 36, but certainly a nice proven goal scorer that will help us there. And if Troy Deeney does go, then he's a good backup. We've been linked with Grimes as well from Swansea. If we can get him in to replace Abdoulaye Doucouré, who looks like he's going to Everton, then that would be good. But yeah, we really do need another centre-back. We still haven't addressed that, so if we can get someone else in, that would...
William Troost-Ekong, Francisco Sierralta. That's what I call a centre-back. Best defender in the league. Say nothing.
Good, but yeah, I mean, we've sold Adrian Mariappa, or at least released him. Jose Holebas has gone to Olympiacos, and also the departure of the other player is Roberto Pereira. He's off to Udinese, along with
Gerard Deulofeu as well.
Deto. But Watford, can we bounce back at the first time of asking? I really hope so. We just have to show team unity, and
that's exactly what we
showed.
That
we have secured Pervis Estepinian and Luis Suarez, not Luis Suarez from...
Yeah, I thought we'd secured Estepinian. He played so well against Tottenham, and then he left. Luis Suarez is not the Luis Suarez you think from Atletico Madrid. No, it's Luis Suarez, the other Luis Suarez, the striker from, I think, Colombia. But he looked like a decent option. He looked like he was going to do well, and then he left. So this is old news, basically.
Barcelona, of course. I know Suarez has been linked with loads of clubs due to Barcelona's crisis, but not that Luis Suarez. It's Luis Javier Suarez from... at one time he was at Real Valladolid, I think, and Zaragoza, I think. But now he is back at Watford, and they had the picture today posing Suarez and Estepinian. So that's two great players that will be key for Watford this season. I'm really excited about them, and I'm also very excited about the newly signed Jeremy Ngakia. He's already got his first Watford goal after scoring in the pre-season friendly with Scunthorpe. We actually do play again this Saturday, so I'll be doing a fan cam, don't forget, for that game by WD18, the Watford Way. So the Watford Way, go check out his channel. It's very good Watford content, and I'll be doing a fan cam for that Tottenham game in the pre-season, the last game before we kick off the Championship on the 11th of September. But anyway, that is Watford. That is how I think we will finish. Second position in the Premier League table prediction. I went with all the points and the goals scored and the goal difference, but it's only the Championship. We're not going to go with that malarkey. I might predict that at some point, but we don't need to save it for this video. All we know is that second is where I think Watford will finish.
Well, we got it bang on. What a prediction. I know my team too well. Do. And Jeremy Ngakia, can I just say, he got barely any minutes this season, but when he did, he was absolute different gravy. And I tell you another player who was different gravy, Ismail Assar. What a baller. He is absolutely fantastic. And the record signing of the club, that is worth every single penny, because he has produced some moments of magic this season. And every Watford player has contributed to what has been a fantastic, fantastic season. Under Vladimir Ivic, that was a joke. Basically, we just were defensively solid, but no clue what we're doing going forward. And the irony of it is, in my predictions, I had manager of the season for the Championship, Vladimir Ivic or Vladimir Ivic, little was I to know that the next guy coming in would be the absolute legend. That is Xisco Munoz. What a job he did. Getting the most out of those players. He gave up so much. He missed so much. He literally travelled away from his children. Kiko Femenia missed the birth of his child. Like, the dedication from the team spirit in times of difficulty without fans, when we were not playing well and not scoring goals, the 4-3-3 formation changed it round for Xisco Munoz in that Bristol City win. It was just madness. It was a great season, and we got it smashed straight on, bang on, correct score, correct position for the table. You got to love it. You really do. So basically, we scored ourselves 50 points from those from those players, sorry. I say 50 points, I mean 30. So that's really, really good. But so far, after 2 down, we haven't done too badly, I think. Watford, bang on, second place, thank you very much. And we just got ourselves a correct position. So you got to be loving it at this point. What I will just do, apologies, I'm getting a bit distracted. I am going to make like a little table, just to show how the whole season's ended and how like much of a difference, whether it's positive, negative, how close was I in terms of the differences. So bear with whilst I just get that sorted. There we are. Right, let's get cracking then with third position. Hopefully we can get another bang-on prediction, but we shall see.
I hope I'm right, and I hope we do have that bounce-back season, but it's just so hard to call. Anyway, we move on to third position now, and in this position, I'm going to put the first team that takes up those playoff places, Norwich City.
Now this is unlucky, because what I've done is I've just got Norwich and Brentford confused. All right, it's an easy mistake to make. They're both decent sides. They're both looking like teams that would push for the top 4. And yeah, I just got them confused. So you got to allow it. You know, it's not too bad. I haven't had an absolute mare and had a team, 5 positions out. It's just, once again, difference of -2, in terms of where I put them. But not too bad, okay? I'll take it. I will take it. So Brentford are ending up to finish third. They had a great season, as I mentioned, but they could still make it a promotion-winning season if they can beat Swansea City on Saturday the 29th. And yeah, Ivan Toney's just been absolutely unbelievable. Like, fair enough. I did underestimate Norwich a little bit there, but I just didn't think they would, be good enough to finish in the top 2, because I know I mentioned about how they're really suited to the Championship, but I felt as though, they're such poor form and such poor performances from the Premier League would really impact them, and it'd be like a bit of a chain effect, a chain reaction, a butterfly effect. They wouldn't have the confidence to go out and play really good football, but fair enough, they had the squad to do it. Timu Pukki, goal machine. Pukki Party were back on. Max Aarons had a great season. Emi Buendia we've already talked about. So fair enough, Norwich, you had a really good season, and you brought in a few decent signings. Oliver Skip, like Kieran Dow, I think, as well. So yeah, solid stuff for the Canaries, and sorry for underestimating you, but I actually did overestimate Brentford. I thought they would finish top of the league, and they finished third. So once again, -2, and we didn't get that one right, but still close enough. We'll move on to fourth position in the table. Here we go.
They have been a team that really have not performed well enough over the last season, but they just look a strong enough squad for me to be at least in that top 6. And if they can keep Daniel Farker, I think he does look quite a promising coach, especially for that division. So yeah, I rate Norwich's team, and I think they will be in third position. But it'll be interesting to see, won't it, if some of their players stay, the likes of Timu Pukki, who absolutely ripped up the Championship 2 seasons ago, and also Jamal Lewis has been linked with a lot of clubs, and they've been rumoured also in Norwich with Ben Davies from Preston. So if they can get him in to replace some of those...
Oh, the irony. Ben Davies ends up going to Liverpool, the team that won the trophy last season, but this season had a mare. And Ben Davies basically just didn't get a game. I mean, what was the point for that? Ben Pearson, on the other hand, from Preston, went to Bournemouth. And we were talking about Jamal Lewis there. He went to Newcastle and honestly didn't play a lot of games, wasn't amazing. And Max Aarons, against all the odds, stays at the club. But will he stay despite Norwich's promotion to the Premier League? We will find out, but interesting stuff.
Parting players, that would be massive. And Emiliano Buendia, I've said it before, he's such a driving force in that Canaries side. If they can keep him, they will be in for a much more positive season. But I don't know, the way they ended that Premier League season might just stop them from, automatically getting promoted. They might just be a bit confidence hit, but I do feel they will be in that top six. So third is where I'm going to put Norwich City. But anyway, we move on to fourth place, and this is the team that I just spoiled earlier, but I said by accident. It's Cardiff City now.
Okay. This is a little bit of an awkward one, lads. No, to be fair, right, Cardiff, they had a great season last time, and then I think they were so close to getting through the playoffs, and then they just bottled it. So I'm not really sure what was going through my brain here, to be fair. But I just didn't think Cardiff would have such a drop off. They're always one of those teams, Cardiff, that are in or around the playoffs, there or thereabouts. And I just thought they'd carry it on. I don't know. I just, had faith in them. But they didn't deliver that faith, and they had a pretty up and down season. It had to take Mick McCarthy to come in and save them, basically. So, the predictions didn't turn out there very well in that respect, because Cardiff didn't have a great season. So it's not ideal stuff, to be honest. But we will, just take it on the chin. Cardiff finished in 8th, actually, and I predicted them in 4th. So the team instead that was in 4th was Swansea City. So fair enough, Cardiff. I got it the wrong Welsh club, but fair enough. Swansea had a great campaign, and you got to give them a lot of credit for that. I do feel like Cardiff, if they'd have just been a bit more consistent, they've got a decent squad, especially for Championship level, where you'd expect them to be aiming most seasons for, playoffs at least, but they couldn't even get into the playoffs this year. And I think that inconsistency under the management of, before it was Mick McCarthy, it was the guy that used to be at Millwall, Gary Rowett, I think it is. But yeah, they really did struggle for that consistency. So that's probably why they did drop down to 8th. But fair enough. Swansea had a good season. I think Swansea had a weird season because they started really decently, and they got that win over the team on the opening day, and it was Gibbs White getting a goal, and you think, okay, this team has got a lot of nice young talent, and they've had a really up and down season, but mainly it's been really good. Jamal Lowe, Andre Ayew getting goals. They ended the season really, really poorly, and they went on a horrible, horrible run of losses. And they basically bottled the automatic promotion, and then they had to settle for the playoffs, and now they're in the final. So, it still leaves to be found out whether they'll have enough to do it in the final. But it's not been they need that consistency to get promoted, and it's not quite happened. But still a good season for Swansea, in 4th spot where I didn't see them to be. So, fair enough. You got to give them credit. And in terms of how wrong we were with that prediction, we were 4 out because, of course, Cardiff City ending up finishing in 8th place when we said it would be 4th. So, that's our worst prediction of the lot so far. -4 difference. Let's move on to the next spot in the table.
Cardiff City are a team that haven't been in the Premier League since the 2018-19 season, but unfortunately they couldn't do what Fulham did this season and bounce straight back up because they lost in the playoffs over 2 legs to Fulham. And Cardiff really do have a team that I do like. Some of their players are very good in the air, the likes of Sean Morrison, Sol Bamba. Also, their forward line is quite decent, Danny Ward, and I think they've still got Bobby Reid as far as I'm aware. So, yeah.
By the way, I need to say, Bobby Reid obviously went to Fulham, but, my thoughts went out to Sol Bamba, to really sad news about how he was getting that cancer, and it was such a distressing time for him, but I think I've heard recently that he's got through that. So, Cardiff fans, I think of you for that, and I think of you, Sol Bamba. But in terms of Cardiff's season, obviously, it was, like I said, a bit up and down, and Mick McCarthy came in, did struggle to get points, but then they got enough to kind of finish in the top 10 at least. So, disappointing, I think, for Cardiff fans to not push for those playoffs, but still not a bad season. Could be a lot worse, that's for sure. I've just noticed now, actually, whilst we're paused. So as well as putting Ivic man of the season, which was just a nightmare because we started December really poorly. That's why Cisco had to come in. I put goal of the season, Joao Pedro against Swansea. Now, allow it, all right? Because I've got my teams confused. I thought Swansea were Derby. So I did this on the 2nd of September 2020. I just had a feeling that absolute screamer was going to come from Pedro away to Derby. But I just got it confused with Swansea. So you got to excuse me there. But no, let's move on. I've just realised as well that I put in first Brentford with 91 points. And that was actually not a bad prediction because turns out in second was 91 points. And that was Watford. So it was actually a very good season by Norwich to get 97 points. But at least got one of the points tallies right. And whereas where I was putting the team in third, finishing on 77, the team in sixth this season finished in 77. So it was actually a lot tighter than we thought and very tight between Norwich, Brentford and Watford. But let's move on to the next spot after that Cardiff prediction. So next up is fifth position.
No, actually, sorry. I think Bobby Reed's at Fulham. Apologies for that. I think they still have. They've got Danny Ward. Who else? Yeah, they still have Junior Hoylett. And Hoylett obviously loves a goal from a long distance, and he's been there for ages, Hoylett. But I always remember Hoylett for his Blackburn days, scoring absolute screamers in the Premier League. But Cardiff do need a revival to get back into that first division. And I think they will get in the playoffs at least. I think Neil Harris has got a nice oiled team there. They couldn't quite do it in the playoffs last season, but perhaps they could do it via the playoffs this season. We'll find out once I've finished all these playoff places who I think will win the playoffs in this video. But in terms of Cardiff, yeah, I think that some of their players are good technical players, and I think they had Victor Camarasa a few seasons ago, and he left to Crystal Palace and then got released, I think. So they've lost a few good players like that. But if they can sign maybe a couple more players in this window, then they can certainly push for those automatic spots. But fourth is where I think they'll end up as it stands for the Bluebirds. Moving on to fifth position, and I'm going to go with Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest are a team that really just bewildered me last season. How they missed out on those playoffs last season is just beyond me. They were doing...
Okay, I need a moment to reflect on this one. Nottingham Forest. I mean, they bottled the playoffs last season, and now they've bottled this season. Like, come on, man. We put them in fifth, and what do? They finish in 17th. Oh, dearie me. They finished on an absolutely awful 52 points from 46 games. Instead, in fifth, it was the team that nobody saw coming. Barnsley Town. Dearie me. That Barnsley prediction... Right, I'm not being funny. My cat's being annoying again. I'm not having it. No. It's back to the old days of having to shut the door. Right. Barnsley, by the way, talking Barnsley, rest in peace, Winstanley. What an absolute legend from him. But Barnsley, what a season. I mean, who would have thought it? I predicted them in 22nd. Yes, to go down. And they go and have an absolute blinder. 78 points, 5th position. They got knocked out in the playoffs, but they had a great season. So, basically, it's just... Oh, yes, Obama's now said he's cancer-free. That's great news. It's just like, you just can't predict these things. Like, it's madness. The fact that Nottingham Forest managed that one. So, yeah, we've had a bit of a mare there, to be fair. We put Nottingham Forest in 5th. Instead, it was, of course, Barnsley. So, I mean, fair play, Barnsley. You just got to give them credit. They've had a great last push. I mean, how they managed to have such a great season. Because it wasn't all, shiny and, squeaky clean at the start of the season. They had Struber in charge, and then they got this Ismail guy in. And ever since, they've just not looked back. It's just been an absolutely fabulous season for Nottingham, for Barnsley, sorry. So, yeah, Nottingham Forest, complete opposite, basically, a really bad season. So, We thought that the prediction for Cardiff City was a bad one, but this, my friends, I don't think we will get much worse than this, because Nottingham Forest finishing in the disappointing end of 17th out of 24. Dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. And we said they would finish in 5th. So that's minus 12. Oh, it stings. It really does, but it is what it is. Right, let's move on quickly then, shall we? Because we don't want to reflect on that one too much. What did we predict for the position of 6th? Deary me, I do not need another one like that, that's for sure.
So well, they had so many good players like Matty Cash, Joe Lolly, up front. They looked brilliant. They looked so, stacked for options, but somehow they just fell away in those last 2 games. And they really will be looking at this season thinking, need a fresh start, need to go again and just improve their consistency. But it'll be interesting to see. Now, I've seen Nottingham Forest's away kit, by the way, and it is interesting, to say the least. They're actually they're situated on the river of, where Nottingham Forest is.
Nottingham.
It's quite a wavy shirt, so pardon the pun, but yeah, that is an interesting one. And if you haven't already checked out, FNG has done a nice little video on reacting to
good old FNG, you gotta love it.
Got a tier list, and one of them is wavy, so for this kit, that'd be straight in that category. But anyway, let's move on to the football. Nottingham Forest. I do like their team. Will they push for the playoffs? I think so, and I think it'll be important for them. Can they keep Joe Worrell? Because he's been very good in defence. But other than that, I don't feel like Brentford and Norwich and all that will be, miles ahead of teams like Nottingham Forest. But I feel like Nottingham Forest will do enough to get those playoffs. So I'm saying they will end in 5th position. And we move on to the final playoff place. And in this position, I'm going to go with 6th position, Derby County. Now,
oh dear, we've had a mare. I mean, fair enough to Nottingham Forest. They kept Joe Worrell, I don't know how, after the season he had. But Derby County in 6th. Oh my gosh. But they pushed for the playoffs a few seasons back. They had a great season under Frank Lampard. At the start of the season under Philip Cocu, it just went to pot, man. It just went to pot. I mean, I mentioned how some people, said Derby would win the league. Some probably Derby fans would have said that. Some odd predictors would have said that. But, we put them 6th, man. I just thought they had playoff credentials. I really did. Deary me. This is not good at all. This is just going downhill very, very quickly. So, yeah, in 6th position, it was a nightmare for my predictions because instead, the team was AFC Bournemouth. And I thought Bournemouth was going to have a really bad season. Now, when I say a really bad season, I'm coming on to them soon. But it wasn't a terrible prediction of Bournemouth. I thought they would struggle to go straight back up because, defensively they had a lot of issues. And obviously they lost Eddie Howe. So, yeah, I thought Derby would do quite well. But, dearie me, they nearly got relegated. It was final day nervy stuff. So, yeah, that's madness, really, when you think about it. Bournemouth finishing 6th. No Derby there. So, that is, once again, an absolute nightmare of a prediction. I mean, what more can you say with that one? That is just not good at all. So, we need to just forget about that one, really, and move on with our lives. But Bournemouth finishing in 6th, fair play. I mean, you got to think about it. The amount of difficulties Bournemouth have had, they've obviously got relegated, so the financial struggles, and they did still get fairly decent to get into the playoffs, but they were pushing so much for the top end of the playoffs and near automatic promotion. They were scoring goals week in, week out. Dominic Solanke, Junior Stanislas, David Brooks, Jefferson Lerma, maybe the odd goal, but he's not that good. No, Watford banter. People like Danjuma was scoring week in, week out. They were having really good wins. And then the season just went... It just fell off a cliff, basically. So not good for Bournemouth, not good at all. But they still got playoffs, and that's got to be a success. Just not a success when you lose on playoffs against Brentford. And they had the 1-0 lead as well, but... yeah, maybe the fans got on top of them a little bit from Brentford there. But not good for me at all. Derby County in 6th. I mean, it just doesn't bode well really for the rest of these predictions when you're doing predictions like that. So Derby County ending up finishing in 21st, and that means it's a disgusting difference of 15. Oh, it's even worse than the previous one. Right, now this is we can't get worse than this. I'm not being funny. Let's move on to the next spot in the table, and that is 7th place. Come on, people, I believe.
The reason for this is that they have a very good team. I like Wayne Rooney. Obviously, he might be more of a manager this season after he played quite a few games. He wants to do a bit of both. But I just like Derby's team, and I think they have a very solid unit of players. And genuinely, yeah, I think if they can get a few players back in, maybe, secure some signings, then they could be stronger. But I like Derby's team, and I think they could have another decent season. So 6th is where I think they will end. So we finished our playoff spots predictions. So therefore, I'm going to wrap it up by saying who I think will be the third team joining Brentford and Watford in the Premier League next season to get promoted. So the team that will win the playoffs, in my opinion, out of these is Cardiff City. Now, I said...
I literally can't be bothered. Like, I could have even said, if I'd have said Norwich, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take it. Because if Brentford win, then that's all 3 promoted teams bang on. But no, I have to go with Cardiff. Cardiff City. Honestly, this is a joke. Absolute joke. I don't know why I even bother with this video. Just not even fun.
In my opinion. But we move on, people, to the next spot in the table. This championship table of 24 teams. Where do I think they'll end, and where do you think they will end? Put it in the predictions in the comments below. Where are each team finishing? But in 6th, it's going to be Derby. In 7th, I'm saying AFC Bournemouth. Now,
okay, all right, I'll take that. All right. Derby's not ideal, but I'll take that. You know, Bournemouth only 1 place out. Yeah, all right. I'm happy with that. I'm happy because Bournemouth, yeah, they had a pretty decent season, but I thought they would not be good enough to finish in the playoffs. I just had this little nagging feeling that Bournemouth maybe it wasn't their time, and it wasn't their time to get promoted, but they did get in the playoffs, so fair play. I mean, to be fair, the team finishing in 7th, in reality, how did they not get in the playoffs? Because when you think about how they started the season, Reading, game after game, they won the first 3 on the bounce. They beat Watford, and that was a bit of a rip, but, I mean, will Norwich, I'd love to know, put it in the comments, will Norwich lose their, yo-yo tag? Are they ready to? Because if they stay up, fair enough. And is Ivan Toney Premier League's, quality? Is he the Premier League next star? Because it's hard to make the step up. If Brentford don't get promoted, he probably has to go. So, yeah, it's a lot of questions, basically. But that is not too bad, I think. I think 1 position out will take that. And Reading, obviously, were the team in 7th. But it was a crazy season for Reading because they started so well and then they ended poorly. And I will never forget that absolute shocker of a João miss. I mean, it was Bristol City away, I think it was. How did he not even hit the target there? It's just shocking stuff. But no, still a good season for Reading. They really have had a lot of, positives. Yaku Meite's had a great season. Michael Elise is going to get a lot of attraction from big clubs. And of course, Lucas João, before that, end of the season, he was in good form. So it is one of those things you think, the manager, is it Pahunovic or something like that? Or Pavlovic? Yeah, he's done a really good job, but it's still a shame for Reading to not be in those playoffs because they had some great moments this season. So, yeah, I'll very happily take that one, to be honest. Just 1 position out for AFC Bournemouth. So, let's put that into the table and let's move on to the next position. And that is, of course, going to be 8th position. Let's get cracking.
It's a controversial one because a lot of people are backing Bournemouth to go straight back up at the first time of asking, but they are under Tyndall. So no Eddie Howe for this season, and it looks like they will be letting go of the likes of Callum Wilson and possibly Joshua King. He's been linked with a move to Brighton. They could get rid of Harry Wilson too, because Liverpool do currently have him on their books, but most likely go off on a loan move and maybe go to Brighton, Harry Wilson. But yeah, it's about keeping players again, like it is for all these relegated teams from the Premier League. But for Bournemouth, yeah, they have to keep some of their strong players. Maybe the likes of Junior Stanislas could probably stay. But in terms of that forward line, I do worry for Bournemouth. They don't have much strength in depth if they strength in depth if they do get rid of. I'm not sure what I'm doing, playing around with stuff. If they do get rid of Callum Wilson and Josh King, then they only have about one striker left, and I think that's Sam Surridge. So unless they do strengthen in this window, which I haven't seen a lot of, they do need to improve. And Jack Gosling might stay, but other than that...
Did I actually just say Jack Gosling? Dan Gosling. And he went to Watford, so I better keep getting his name right. But basically, I've got to give Bournemouth credit. Dominic Solanke had a good season, but it wasn't enough. Unlucky Bournemouth, you cheats.
See much improvement for Bournemouth, and without Eddie Howe, they'll really struggle, in my opinion. Just conceding too many goals in the last few seasons, and they're also not going to have Aaron Ramsdale because he's joined Sheffield United. So yeah, I thought it'd just be a tough season for Bournemouth, and they won't be able to get what they would have wanted at a minimum, which is playoffs. So yeah, that's where I'm ending Bournemouth in this table, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a bit harsh to say they didn't deserve it, but I just don't feel like I ever watched Bournemouth and thought, yeah, they're definitely going to be in the Premier League. Like that, it was kind of that season for Bournemouth. So they'll look back at it and it's probably with a bit of regret, but they'll go again next season. They'll push for promotion, and let's see what they do. Let's move on though to the next spot in 8th position, because we have predicted an interesting team here.
But anyway, they might finish higher than 7th. I just think it might be a tough season of, struggling to get out of it and struggling financially. So, all these Premier League teams do have the parachute money, but it's whether you can use your money wisely, and I just don't feel Bournemouth will make enough signings. But we move next to 8th position, and I'm going to go with Middlesbrough.
Middlesbrough, well, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Neil Warnock's team, they actually had quite a decent season. Neil Warnock is Neil Warnock. He's going to get the job done. It's not going to be spectacular, but it's going to get you points. And yeah, we had a baptism of fire really for Vladimir Ivic to play the first game against Neil Warnock, a classic championship head coach. He knows exactly how to play the game. And Middlesbrough are one of those teams that they don't overcomplicate it, but they do get points. And to be fair, when you look back at their season, they have had points where they flirted with the playoffs, but never really quite there. And ultimately, it was a decent season, but just falling short of where they'd really want to be in those top 6 places. So, yeah, 10th position for Middlesbrough. I went with them being in 8th. So, the actual team that finished in 8th position finished as Cardiff City, we mentioned earlier. So, I mentioned how Cardiff, they really should have done better because I think their squad was good, and, add Harry Wilson to that, they had a pretty solid team. And also, Kiefer Moore had a fantastic season, so they could have been fired to the playoffs at least through his great form. But no, fair enough. It was a season where it wasn't just quite enough for Cardiff, and it wasn't quite enough for Middlesbrough either. So Middlesbrough is incorrect, unfortunately. We really have failed to carry on the glory of our predictions since that Watford one. But the Bournemouth one was close enough. This one, not too close, but it's still decent for our, predictions. 10th was what we said, so therefore it is -2 difference once again. Let's move on to 9th spot. Who did I put in that position?
Well, putting Middlesbrough high in their championship table predictions this season, and I'm doing it fairly high in 8th position because I thought last season they were really disappointing, but they do have a very good squad, and I like the likes of Britt Assombalonga. I think he's been a very good servant for them. And also their manager. I think Neil Warnock coming in was the right choice. It steered Middlesbrough to safety, and now that he's having his first full season with the club, he could possibly get them promoted. He does often like to do that, Neil Warnock. He knows how it's done in this season. And Middlesbrough, of course, are the team that we will face on the first game of the season. But yeah, I feel like Middlesbrough might have a surprise, few performances up their sleeve and possibly do well this season. So don't count Middlesbrough out. And although I think Middlesbrough will have a good season. It won't be enough to get in those playoffs. 8th position for them, 8th in the table. But we move next to 9th position, and I'm going with Stoke City. Now, Stoke, again, have been one of those teams last season that were very disappointing, but I feel as though they can bounce back. They are a big club, I think, and for them to not be in the Premier League for so long is a real disappointment. West Brom, obviously, were in the Premier League just in the 2017-18 season, but Stoke got relegated the same season West Brom did. West Brom got promoted this season, and they're back ready for the new season Premier League. But
and now they're back down.
So they will be a bit envious of that and want to, shake up their team a bit. They have brought in a signing that I think will massively improve their team. And when I saw this, I thought, is this actually real? Is this fantasy land? But believe it or not, people, they went and did it. They brought in an absolute legend of a player that is from Chelsea, well, used to be at Chelsea, I should say. And his name has slipped my mind, so let's just make sure I get this name pronounced correctly.
John Obi Mikel.
Hang on. Bear with, people.
Oh, past self, you're such a plonker. Honestly.
Why can't I find it? It was like a decent signing, and
well, I say decent. He's pretty, at the end of his career,
it's
but
just taking a while to load. Still
not bad. But he hasn't done a lot for Stoke. Let's be honest. 39 matches.
That's it. John Obi Mikel. How could I forget? What a legend! And also, they brought in Stephen Fletcher from Sheffield Wednesday, which I think is a great signing. And you might say, nah, Stephen Fletcher's way too old, but he still has it in him. They've also got in James Chester from Aston Villa, and they've also brought in Badu Ndiaye, who I think is an absolutely cracking player from Trabzonspor. So, yeah, I think, it just might be a decent season for Stoke, simple as that. And that's why I'm going where I've said, with Stoke City to finish in 9th position.
Well, I mean, 9th is not too bad, I guess, but we actually did have QPR finishing in 9th spot, so yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Stoke did have a season where they were pushing for the playoffs at one point, but it kind of just fizzled out. I mean, they do have a decent team, and they have had a great season, especially when you think about Nick Powell. He's been revolutionary, and Stephen Fletcher was a good signing, but I just feel like they don't attack enough. They don't score enough goals, and they revert to goal preventing rather than goal scoring, and that's why a lot of their games have been quite tight this season. And at the Potters, they've kind of just defended and they've thrown their body on the line, and that's not amazing football to watch, but it has got them points, so fair enough. It's not been a bad season for Stoke. They actually ended up finishing in 14th, which to end the season that way is not ideal, but they did win on the final day against Bournemouth. Just not a great season. They could have done a bit better. They could have kept a bit of a better run going. So it's not great for us in the predictions, and we got this one wrong. QPR were the ones in 9th in reality. Actually, I think I might have done something a bit dodgy here. What have I done? QPR actually finished 9th, so I've put it in the wrong column. Oh dear. Bear with, people. That is not what we want to see. Right, QPR finished in 9th, and then we had Stoke in 9th. So Stoke actually finished in 14th, so that is a difference of 5. Lovely. Okay, let's move on to the next one. And that, my friends, is, of course, a little bit of 10th spot. Who did we go for in this position?
In 10th place, I'm saying Bristol City. Now, Bristol had a good season last time. I mentioned already about Nahki Wells. I think he'll have a great season again. But it won't be, what Bristol City fans would have wanted. But I do feel they'll finish out the playoffs. But having a better season than last time.
Yeah, I've had a bit of a mare here again. There was one point where Bristol City were in the top 10. But then it fell off a cliff, and Nigel Pearson had to come in to save the day. I mean, to be fair, he did well to not get them relegated, because they were in that bad of a run of form. But yeah, not a good end of the season for the Robins. 19th is what they finished as. I mean, that is just awful. Absolutely awful. So, yeah, Bristol City fans won't be happy about that season. But instead, in 10th spot, it wasn't Bristol City, it was Middlesbrough. So, we're kind of getting these all a bit jumbled all over the place right now. There's not much order to these predictions, which is a bit of a frustrating one because we get the Watford one right, and then all the rest of it just falls out the window. But we can do what we can do. It is what it is, kind of thing. But yeah, it was one of those seasons really for Bristol City that I just didn't see coming. And Middlesbrough, as we mentioned, had a very solid campaign, nothing spectacular, but a solid campaign under the management of Neil Warnock. And people like Yannick Bolasie, good players, and yeah, they had a few decent players like Paddy McNair and Jeremy Bella. Also, Jeremy Bella is Birmingham, isn't it? But Bella plays at the back for Middlesbrough as well. So yeah, decent season, but not as good as I thought it would be for Middlesbrough. And then in terms of Bristol City, they just fell flat. They really did fall flat at the end of it. So I think they've got to think about that and just reflect on that and say, I tell you what, we weren't good enough, and they need to go again. But under a full season of Nigel Pearson, surely they'll do well because, Pearson is an absolute legend. No Watford bias in there whatsoever. So the difference there that time is -9. That is not what you like to see. And by the way, if you're wondering, what about the points? Table positions. Don't worry, we'll calculate that at the end because I've got a scoring system for that. And basically it's if you're one position out, you get 9 points. If you're 2 positions out, you get 3 points. And if you're exactly bang on, you get correct position, 15 points. So let's quickly move on, shall we, to the next spot in the table, and that is 11th place. So 11th place for this table.
Place is where they'll end. 11th, Swansea. Now, Swansea...
11th for Swansea. Okay, right. That's not good. Yeah. We underestimated Swansea a fair bit there. The reason for that is because they weren't that spectacular. They got a little bit lucky last season to creep into the playoffs at the last second. And under the management of Graham Potter, they were doing all right, but they were nothing spectacular. It just was a bit of a fluke, really. So this season, fair enough, they've had a much better campaign, across the season. And they are in the Championship playoff finals. So, yeah, all right, fair enough, Swansea. You did fairly decent, so got to give you credit. But, yeah, we've underestimated them a fair bit there. So that is not great when all said and done. But, yeah, it is what it is. We've got a difference there of 8. So Swansea was wrong by 8. And in reality, the team finishing in that spot of 11th was Millwall Town. Now, I think it's Millwall, maybe not Millwall Town. But Millwall, this is kind of the same thing really as Stoke. I mean, yeah, fair enough. You had a decent season. Solid. You got safety for another year. But I just looked at Millwall's games and they didn't inspire me particularly. They got a lot of draws. They were the draw specialists, and yeah, right, they got a lot of goals through people like Jed Wallace, and to be fair, at one point in the season, Ched Evans was getting a lot of goals for Millwall. So they did actually end the season with a little bit of a purple patch. And cheers for beating Bournemouth. You love to see it. And I think you drew to Norwich or beat Norwich as well, which really helped out Watford. But yeah, it was still a bit of an off season really for Millwall. So I think they can do better, and I think they can maybe challenge for the playoffs next season if they can really go for it. But 11th was where they ended, where I went for Swansea, and yeah, pie is on my face a little bit there because Swansea are actually getting in the playoff spots and doing a lot better than that. So I actually did get that run wrong, but it is what it is. We go again. Simple as that. So the difference there, that time. Now I'm not sure. I've done minuses all this time, but have I actually done plus or minus? So Brentford, for example, right? I put them as first, and actually they were third. So that would be minus because that's less than what they finished. So Norwich, I put them third, and they were actually first. So I guess that's +2 then, not -2. I need to reevaluate my scoring. Right, that's a bit of an issue there. So let's get with it then. Where is the plus sign? There it is. Cardiff City, we put as 4th. We know that was obviously not good. -4. Nottingham Forest, -12. That's fine. Derby, -12, -15. Bournemouth, we actually put as 7th, but they finished a place above that, so it should have been +1, not -1. Right, that is good that I checked that because it could have got a lot more confusing if we'd have left it at that. Middlesbrough, we put in the position of 8th, but actually they finished 10th, so it's -2. That is correct. Stoke, we actually put in the position of 9th, and they ended up finishing in 14th, so we actually did get that wrong. So it should have been -5. And then finally, Bristol City, they finished a lot lower than we thought, so -9. So back to Swansea, they actually finished a lot higher than we thought. So instead of minus, it's actually plus. So we put Swansea in 11th. They finished in 4th, so that's +8 there. Lovely stuff. Okay, let's move on to the next spot in the table, and that is, of course, 12th position. Here we go.
Possibly pushing for playoffs, but I wouldn't say anything more than that. They haven't had the best of pre-seasons, but you know, they do have some good influential players in there, like Andre Ayew. So they might do well, but I just feel they'll struggle a little bit with the second season syndrome after they did, you know, play so many games last season through getting into the playoffs. And yeah, just a little bit of knock to the confidence, I think. 11th place is where Swansea will be. Then in 12th, I'm going to go with a team that really, again, would want to be up there in the playoffs, but I just don't see it happening. Preston North End, 12th place for them. I just feel they want...
Okay, well, this is the awkward bit of the video, because Watford's rivals, who I thought would have a stinker of a season, to be honest, and no Watford bias coming in, I just thought their squad wasn't good enough, but they finished 12th, and that is Luton Town. I mean, how did they do it? How did they do it? They got lucky. I'm saying that now. They got lucky. I'm not having anything else. Yeah, fair enough, Luton. But it's fine. You know, you can finish 7th or you can finish 23rd. I don't really mind. Well, actually, I would like it if you finish 23rd. But you can finish 7th or you can finish 13th or 15th. I don't mind. As long as you stay where you are in the Championship while we go up, that's fine. That's perfectly fine with me. But yeah, no, Luton had a good season. I've got to give them some credit. Fair enough. They actually did score a lot of goals. And James Collins had a great season. It was just one of those ones we didn't see coming. Luton, you know, with their budget, you didn't expect it, but and with their stadium, can I just say, awful. But no, they had a decent season, so credit where credit's due. Fair enough, Luton. But in 12th, I actually did go with instead Preston, and Preston, they had a bad season. I mean, there was a point where we thought they were going to go down because they were on a really bad slump. Now, was it Ched Evans that plays for Millwall, or was it for Preston that he plays for? I've forgotten I've gotten the two confuddled there. But anyway, the point is, Preston didn't have a great season, and they had flashes of brilliance with really good form shown by the likes of Scott Sinclair. But yeah, it was one of those up and down seasons, and then Preston had to kind of make sure they stayed up. They did that, and fair enough. They solidified a pretty mid-table finish. So yeah, not bad for Preston. They actually ended up finishing 13th, not 12th, I should say, but I was close there, so we'll take that one. So Preston North End, we weren't far away there, but not, unfortunately, just right. It was 13th they finished, so that's -1 in terms of the difference. Then next up, who have we got in the position of, is it 13th or 14th? No, 13th.
The best of seasons, and they'll start to lose confidence and start edging down the table in these seasons as they go by. But in 13th, Reading really do have some players that I think should be playing for bigger clubs.
Example, Michael Elise. But genuinely, I did underestimate Reading. Fair enough. If they'd have won, if they'd have got into the top 4, like they were doing really well at the start of the season, then I really would have been, eating my words. But I wasn't too far off. Reading had a bit of a late season slump, and they ended up finishing 7th. So yeah, all right, 13th is a bit of a gap, but it's not too bad. It could have been a lot worse, to be honest. But instead, the team that finished in 13th, as we mentioned, was Preston. So yeah, very unlucky with that Preston prediction, but not too unlucky, I guess, with Reading. I knew they wouldn't finish in the top 6 because they just don't have that, killer instinct. They have got good players individually, but have they got the team spirit to get them through? Maybe not. So yeah, Reading was the one we went for, and it was wrong, but not too bad. Kind of the right idea, just not quite the right execution. So that is a difference there. After we predicted Reading in 13th, they ended up finishing 7th. So that is a difference of +4. Nice. Okay. or no, +6, I should say. Can he do his maths? Okay. Next position is coming up then, and that is number 14.
But at the same time, they could be doing better, Reading. And last season, they weren't really as high as I thought they'd be. But I think they'll at least get 13th this season, surely. So, yeah, that's where I think they're going to end. But, watch out for Reading, because they might be underdogs. They might do better than we think. And obviously, they're kind of local to Watford, but not really. They have got Ovi Ajaria, who I do rate very highly, and George Puskas is an absolute cracking player. But yeah, other than that, I don't see a lot of promise in their team. So I think they'll grind to a fairly mid-table finish of 13th. In 14th, I'm going with QPR. Now, this is interesting because obviously they are without Eberichi Eze, who's gone to Crystal Palace, and
to be fair, QPR, they actually did have a quite bad season at one point in it, but then they kind of saved themselves. Charlie Austin came in. He did pretty well, to be fair, so I'll give them credit for that. And Warburton actually did steer them to some good results. They had that little purple patch, and that was happening to start with their win over Watford at Vicarage Road from 1-0 down. And yeah, it was a decent season. They ended the season well. One player, though, that I think is an absolute baller is Elias Chair. What a guy. And I think he might get snatched up by a big team, but we'll see. But yeah, QPR, they had moments of worry. They might slip into a relegation battle, but it was all right in the end for QPR. But instead, the team that actually finished 14th was Stoke City. So yeah, Stoke City, I mentioned how they kind of at times look decent, but their negative style, I think, is what meant they slipped down to 14th. They just couldn't quite attack at games and take the initiative. So instead, they finished in 14th. But yeah, it's not a bad finish for QPR in the end, because actually they did finish above what I predicted, and that was 14th, what I predicted. QPR instead finishing a little bit above that in the position of 9th. Quite a good season to finish in top 10. So yeah, you got to give QPR credit there. I did underestimate them a smidge, but not too far off. So that is a difference, once again, of 5. Right, let's move on to the next one, people. And that is the position of 15th.
Can they keep hold of Asai Samuel? That is going to be key, because he was an absolute wonder kid last season.
To lose Eze and Samuel,
they'll have a much better season, in my opinion. But in terms of QPR, they might be a bit off and on, but I don't know, it's tough to call. Maybe they might have a good season, but ultimately QPR haven't been consistent enough. Maybe they might be better next season, but I'm just going to stick them in 14th. We move on to 15th now, and in this position I'm going to go with a team that really could be in the playoffs. I might be a bit underestimating them here, but a team that I've said might be a surprise package, but ultimately when it comes to it, at the end of the day, they probably will, defensively be too weak, and that is Blackburn Rovers. So 15th for the Rovers. Look, their team is decent, but have they done enough to strengthen in the summer? Possibly, possibly not. It depends what your view on it, really. I like some of their players, the likes of Armstrong, and Blackburn's opening games aren't too bad. I mean, we faced Blackburn quite early on, I think. I think we host them at the Vic. But, yeah, it's a tough one to call, again. They have a pre-season fixture against Leicester, which could be interesting, but they do face Bournemouth on the opening day. But, yeah, Blackburn, I just feel like they need to get back to where they want the fans to be, which is in Premier League football. Ben Brereton had a good season, I think, last time. Adam Armstrong is obviously their main player, along with Bradley Dack. But, yeah, I don't know, I just feel like they've got quite an ageing team. The likes of Bradley Johnson's still there. Yeah, I'm just not sure about them. So, might be a good season, but not in my opinion. 15th. Then 16th.
Yes, boys, we've got another correct score. Correct position, I should say. That is much more satisfying. I mean, when you get so many bad ones and then back again with a correct position, I mean, that is a good call, I think. I think the Watford one is quite skillful, because it's so hard to predict that those playoffs and those automatic, like the gap between them is so fine sometimes in the Championship. It's so dramatic. And I've just calculated it in a formula and said, yep, Watford, second place. But Blackburn, a lot of people would have said they'd at least push for the playoffs this season, and they actually had quite a good end to the last season, and we thought maybe, rebuild, might have a decent season. They brought in Harvey Elliott, and people were like, oh yeah, this guy's good. And of course we know Adam Armstrong is lethal at this division, at this, level of the game. And he had a good season, Armstrong. He had an amazing season, so many hat-tricks, and yeah, some very good players from Blackburn. They had some big scorelines. They won 5-0 at points this season. 6-2, 5-2, whatever, name whatever you want. So it was one of those seasons for Blackburn that they have shown signs of it, but they haven't done it enough this season. Watford beating them 3-1 at the Vic, and of course also 3-2 at Elwood Park. But it just was one of those ones for Blackburn. Defensively, they were pretty sloppy, letting in a lot of late goals and losing to teams they shouldn't expect to be losing to. So, yeah, not a great season for Tony Mowbray's Blackburn, and that's, I'm pretty sure, why there are rumours that Tony Mowbray will leave if he hasn't already. So, yeah, not great for Blackburn, but great for me. We've got it bang on, and, get in the comments about Blackburn Rovers, because he knows who I am. I commented in his championship predictions, and he'll be impressed with my bang-on prediction, because obviously he'll be biased. He'll have put them much further up than that. But I just had a feeling Blackburn weren't quite going to do it this season. So that is very, very satisfying indeed. Let's move on then to number 16, which is going to be Millwall. That's what I've gone with. Oh, okay. Well, who finished 16th in reality?
What am I going to say for this? I'm going to say Millwall. Millwall actually ended last season very well. Fair play to them. I think they had a top half finish, but I just feel it might decline this season. Obviously, they haven't got all the players they would have wanted. Some of them decent, but yeah, I just don't see it for Millwall here. They might struggle towards the end of the season, and yeah, it might be a tough season for Millwall, but they'll do enough to stay up. I think definitely they've got enough to do that. So.
Yeah, well, at least I got the right thing that Millwall stayed up. Just not great in terms of my prediction, because we know, of course, Millwall had a decent finish at 11th, but not this position that I predicted 16th. So that is wrong by 5 there. But the team that actually did end up finishing in 16th was Coventry City. I mean, fair enough, Coventry. I thought you were going to go down. I thought you were going to finish bottom. They actually defied the odds. Like, you just got to give them credit. They ended the season well. They showed togetherness. And, yeah, they absolutely battered the team that I thought would finish in 16th, Millwall, on the final day. They beat them 6-1. I mean, that's just the craziness of the championship. But players like McFadden, players like Hyam, Walker, Shipley, Dominic Hyam, Hamer, they're all very, I think I said Hyam twice there. They're all very good players, and they've made some good signings this season. And I think Morosi's quite a good goalie, but ultimately it has been a very up and down season at times for Coventry. But at the end of it, they ended well, and as I mentioned, that 6-1 win was impressive stuff. So maybe there is a golfing class between Coventry and Millwall, but I actually went for Coventry in that prediction there. I went for Millwall in that prediction there, and it was Coventry that finished in 16th. So, yeah, not great from me, but we will move on to the next spot. And, got to give all the credit to Coventry. I did not see them coming there, and did not see that kind of safety fairly comfortably till the end of a few weeks before the season. Right, next up then is the prediction for 17th. Let's see what we're saying for this one.
16th for them. And 17th, I'm going with Huddersfield.
Well, Huddersfield Town in 17th. That is an interesting one. I can confirm it was 20th for Huddersfield. Not a good season. Really not a good season. The last 5 games, they won 1 of those games. They really did have defensive troubles. I mean, they can score goals on their day. Fraser Campbell, I rate him. I rate some of their really good technical players like Isaac and Benza, and definitely I rate Josh Koroma, very good player this season. But they just haven't got results, and they've lost gutting games. I remember that Coventry game at home for Huddersfield where they were like 2-1 up and then they lost it 3-2. It's just one of those things. Huddersfield have just bottled a lot of games this season, but it is not a good season, and they will be puffing their cheeks out that they did just about enough, before the final day in terms of previous match weeks to confirm safety. But yeah, it was Derby and Wycombe, Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday that were fighting on the final day. And luckily for them, Huddersfield weren't involved in it. But when you think about Huddersfield, they stayed 2 seasons in the Prem. And then not long ago, and not long after, now they're really struggling and nearly went down. So it really is a big, change in fortunes for Huddersfield. But yeah, in 17th, I actually did go with Huddersfield. In fact, it was Nottingham Forest in this position. Nottingham Forest, we mentioned earlier. I mean, how they managed to just have such a bad season, and it was the appointment of Chris Hughton that actually did quite well, and it's absolutely typical, isn't it? As soon as James Garner goes to Nottingham Forest, he actually decides to play well. But I'll admit, he didn't get enough game time at Watford, and that's the same thing for Glenn Murray. He didn't get enough game time, and then suddenly he goes and scores. So it just shows what some minutes can do to you. But it certainly was not a good season for Forest. They really were, some people's favourites for the playoffs, and they just dropped like a stone. But at least they didn't go down. That would have been a really big nightmare for a club the size of Nottingham Forest. That would have been really, really bad. But yeah, we went with instead this position, Huddersfield Town. Not too far. I had a feeling Huddersfield would be involved in the relegation battle to some extent, but I actually slightly overestimated them here. So there is a difference so far of... So we put them in 17th, yeah, and they finished 20th. So yeah, -3 is what I should have gone with. So that was the difference in the end. Right, we're nearly there, people. Keep the faith. Let me just extend this table before we run out of room, because that would be a nightmare, wouldn't it? Oh, yes, it would. Right, let me just do that for you, people. Smash a like on the video, by the way, whilst you're waiting. It's been a long one, but a good one. I hope you do enjoy this one and enjoy my reaction to it. So, we've just done 17th. We've got 18, 19, 20... Then 21, we've got 22 still to do. And then 23 and 24. Lovely stuff. Okay, we're back, ready for action. Next up, we've got the position of 18th. What did we go for this time? Come on, I need a correct score here.
Huddersfield Town. They were only in the Premier League a few seasons ago, but last season, not good enough. Danny Cowley came in, absolutely legend.
Danny Cowley, what a guy.
Legendary build-up for him, and he didn't disappoint, just kept them up, and then he gets sacked. Like, what are you doing, Huddersfield? But anyway, the thing is with Huddersfield, can they rebuild this season and genuinely push for that top half? You'd hope so, because, their team is not that different from when they got relegated, but yeah, they just struggle for confidence and defensively far too leaky. The question is, will O'Brien, the technical midfielder, stay at Huddersfield? That would be interesting because he's a good player for them. But yeah, I feel like it'll be another tough season for Huddersfield. But then again, they will do enough. So 17th, we move on to 18th place, and I'm going here with Birmingham now. How will Birmingham City react and fare without Jude Bellingham? He is...
Yeah, Bellingham off to Dortmund. What a season he had. Fair enough. He probably should be involved maybe at the England Euros. Certainly Ian Wright made that clear in his talk and Match of the Day, final one of the Premier League season. No, but back to the Championship. Fair enough, Huddersfield, you kept O'Brien, but I put Birmingham in 17th. In 18th, I should say. What did I think they would do? I thought they would have a bad season because they were pretty dodgy. But we predicted 18th for Birmingham. How did they finish? 18th. Come on. Let's go. It's what you love to see. We might have predicted Nottingham Forest in 17th, which was not quite there, but, close. Huddersfield in 17th. Not quite there, but good effort. But Birmingham we got right. So that is our third correct prediction. I'm happy with this, honestly. There'll be a lot of people having nightmares about their Premier League table predictions, their Championship table predictions. But once again, we've been consistent. 3 correct positions. So let me just fill this in for you people. So in reality, in 18th, it was Birmingham. And in my predictions, it was Birmingham. I mean, that is beautiful stuff. I did have a feeling they would be down there because recently they have been leaking goals. And I know that you can say, oh yeah, well they've got goals at the other end as well through the likes of Bella from those set pieces. He's got a good header on him. And also Lukas Djukovic, very good player. Had him for my fantasy team a few weeks. He did absolute bits against teams like Derby and teams like Huddersfield. Some weeks he scored braces. He was just beautiful. Very good player in terms of the FPL points. But no, it's a great prediction from me. You'll love to see it. That is bang on once again. And it is hard to predict that relegation fight. And I just thought they wouldn't quite go down, but they'd just be on the fringes, Birmingham, of getting into trouble. So let's move on. Let's probably not move on. Just end the video there. That's a brilliant prediction.
Borussia Dortmund, and he was just brilliant last season. Such a wonder kid, and they did decide for some weird reason to completely retire the number 22 shirt, I think it is, or number 20, probably number 20 shirt, from ever being used again. But literally, it's just brainless because he's a youngster and there's no point in doing that. Anyway, we move. Birmingham struggled toward the end of last season, but could they have a better season than last time? Possibly. I just feel it'd be another season of struggles and highs and lows. 18th, where I think the Midlands club will end. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because the Bellingham one, I'm not sure what number it was. It might have been 22, might have been 20. But I think that like Gary Gardner or Craig Gardner might have had number 20. I don't know. The point is, Birmingham had a very weird season. The fact that we know they're a big club. We think they should probably be doing better. But they had a point in the season. They were so low. They were, losing week in, week out. And that's why Karanka had to go. He had to go, blood. But in came Lee Bowyer. And fair enough. He actually did do fairly well. Steady the ship. They got a decent performance in at Watford, even though they lost 3-0. You love it. But no, they actually did get some good results. They beat Reading, I do believe. Or they beat some big clubs. And they got the goals back into Lukas Djukovic. And that's absolutely key for Birmingham. So, yeah, all right. They stayed up. They'll take that. But they want to have a much better season next season. So let's move on then to 20th, shall we?
That's what I'm going to go with. Then we might go on to 19th.
I've skipped one there. What am I on about? 19th.
Get the words out, but 19th, Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay, well, at least I knew Sheffield Wednesday would be in a relegation battle, and a lot of people knew that because it just made logical sense. They had that 12-point deduction, which I think was reduced to like 6 points or 8 points, something like that. They appealed for it, and they seem to have got that appeal. But I don't think anyone would have thought they'd still have such a bad season because defensively they were all over the shop. I mean, they just couldn't sort it out. And, they do have decent players like Jordan Rhodes, you think about him. Like, amazing player. And, Adam Reach, absolute baller back in his day. And he's still good, but he just didn't show it this season. And Sheffield Wednesday, they didn't end the season well. I mean, 41 points from 46 games is unforgivable. They finished bottom, and it looks like they weren't going to finish bottom. We thought it was going to be Wickham or even Rotherham. But on the final day, all they can do is draw with Derby County, and that was not enough because of the fact that Rotherham also got a draw and Derby got the win. So, yeah, it was crazy stuff on that final day in terms of the relegation battle. But I didn't expect Sheffield Wednesday to finish bottom, I'll be honest. We had them staying up. We had them, overcoming that points deduction. And to an extent, they did do that. They caught up with the rest of the teams, and they were still in the relegation zone, but they'd at least, got positive points again, and they were, fairly close to the other teams fighting for relegation. So you got to give them credit for that. You got to give credit to people like Darren Moore, who's put so much effort into that team. And yeah, you got to feel bad for Sheffield Wednesday because they're a big club, and to see them go down to League One is sad. And obviously Darren Moore had a bit of problems with COVID, and he had a few illnesses, but then he's luckily got back in time for the final day. But it just is one of those things. But they'll have to just play much better. But you'd fancy them maybe to bounce back the first time of asking in League One. We will see, but Sheffield Wednesday still not a great season, and not great for us really because we got that one wrong. So in reality, in 19th, it was Bristol City, and we mentioned earlier what an absolute stinker of a season that was for the Robins. I mean, as we mentioned, it's a bit like Nottingham Forest in this respect, that at times in previous seasons, Bristol City have been up there in the playoffs, and they, got wins in the Carabao Cup against teams like Man United. They were going places, but maybe the fans really hurt them. I don't know. They just seem to lose all sense of identity. And like players like Giadu and Naki Wells, who started the season really well, where did they go? Like, it was crazy. They really did, go off the boil, and it was not a great end to the season. So that is not ideal stuff. We we've overestimated Sheffield Wednesday there, but it is what it is. We do what we can, and that means that with Sheffield Wednesday we have got a difference there of -5. So yeah, not ideal. Right, let's move on to the next spot then, 20th spot. So this is getting close, getting nervy in terms of the relegation battle.
With Sheffield Wednesday, I would have put their team
voice crack confirmed
if it hadn't been for that number 1 point deduction and number 2 losing of players, because I don't know, they might be selling Forestieri. I think they might have already let him go because he had a fallout with something. But Sheffield Wednesday, I just feel like they're starting to get in trouble. And if they do start having more administration problems and financial fair play and all that blah blah blah, they get problems with that, then that could be even more points deducted, and they really have to play catch up. I mean, 12 points is quite a lot to peg back so early on in the season, but their first game, they'll want to try and kick off with a good start, and then they face us at their place. So yeah, it'll be interesting, but I just feel it'll be another season of struggle. They have some really good players at Sheffield Wednesday. I think they've still got Adam Reach, and he's
Callum Patterson.
I do really rate. So maybe they'd be better at least finishing the top half, but nah, I don't see it for Sheffield Wednesday. The Owls finishing in 19th place, but at least they stay up. Then in 20th, I'm going
to... They don't stay up, basically. That is the sad situation. But let's move on to what I said for 20th.
Rotherham. Now,
Rotherham in 20th. Okay, I don't know what part of me thought that Rotherham would stay up, to be honest. Nah, fair enough. Rotherham got promoted last season, and people were saying, oh yeah, they'll do enough to stay up. They've got a decent manager, and this is the sort of thing where you think your heart goes out to this guy. I mean, he's put his heart and soul into this team. Paul Warne, genuinely, he looked shattered. He looked a broken man after they got relegated. So, all credit for, at the age of 48, he's still quite a young manager, but you could tell he was just stressing out. He was hating it. And Rotherham gave it a good go. But at the end of the day, I think you can say that for Rotherham, their games in hand, Rotherham invested well. That's the thing. They invested well, but it was always going to be a big task, I think, for them to survive. With them just coming up from League One. And, they had so many games postponed from COVID. So the congested fixture schedule, it caught up with them eventually. And it hurt them in the end. So, yeah, it was a poor start to the season, I think, from the Millers. And that's eventually, what killed them. So it was also the same story for Wycombe. Poor start to the season, preventing Wycombe from staying up. So, yeah, it is what it is. I think today in this video, it's fair to say that some of these predictions were better than others. But anyway, back to Rotherham. I still think this is not a bad prediction because we put them fairly close to where they ended up. They ended up in a position where I think a lot of people backed them to go down, to the bottom, because they just got promoted, but so did Wycombe. So, yeah, how different do you kind of measure it? But they finished 23rd in the end, and instead the team that finished 20th was Huddersfield Town. Not a good season for Huddersfield, as we've mentioned before. They're just far too leaky. And they needed to be doing much, much better next season. But, yeah, it is what it is. We overestimated Sheffield Wednesday, which seemed quite... Rotherham. It seemed quite hard to do that because a lot of people thought that... I don't know if they thought they were going to stay up, but they thought they had a decent manager, and he is a decent manager, but they just couldn't quite do it, to be honest, to end the season. So, unlucky Rotherham fans. They'll go again next season, and they'll see what they can do, but that is not exactly ideal for our predictions, and we've got that one wrong by 3. All right, we're getting to the end, people. It is now 21st spot. What have we put? Come on, this has surely got to be right, because the amount of ones we've got wrong, it's just got to balance out, surely.
United, they're promoted. Will they most likely go back down? Not in my opinion. Lots of people backing them to, but I just feel they'll have that momentum, and they went back up to the Championship a few seasons ago, got relegated again, now they're back up, and I feel that they will learn their lesson. So 20th is where Rotherham are going to be. And we're getting to the home stretch now, people. It is 21st position. And the team that I think will avoid relegation is Wycombe Wanderers.
Yeah, it was more hopeful than logical, I think. I was using my heart, not my head. And that is a rookie mistake, I think. Rookie error when you're doing Championship table predictions. Because if you look at Wycombe's squad, they were never going to be likely to stay up. It was going to be such a big ask. And you can't fault them for trying. You know, they really did go for it. And Gareth Ainsworth, what a legend. Like, he's a great Championship manager. He's got great style. You know, great long hair. But no, genuinely, they have that togetherness, and they just went for every game. Yeah, you know, Jacobson scoring a lot of penalties, Akinfenwa scoring his first Championship goal, absolute scenes. But yeah, no, it just wasn't enough from Wycombe. And as I mentioned, that poor start to the season kind of killed them. So that was a bit of an Achilles heel. And I think that it's fair to say Wycombe gave it all they got, but it was always going to be a tough ask. And they're probably gutted to not seen many, you know, many have games for the fans to actually go to. So yeah, it's a sad one for Wycombe, but that is what it is. And I'm gutted for them. Honestly, it is gutting. But they just didn't have enough. So fair enough. So what did I put for that position? Well, I actually put 21st, but they ended up with 22nd. So not far away. And we put Derby in that spot of 6th, but they ended up finishing 21st. So yeah, it wasn't great in that front of it, really. Derby completely underwhelmed, and Wycombe actually underwhelmed too, but we were just a bit too hopeful, really, for Wycombe. But yeah, very close with Wycombe, and they actually ending up, although they were looking like they were always going to go down, they had to win 13-0 or something crazy against Middlesbrough. They did win 3-0 against a team like Middlesbrough who you'd fancy Wycombe to lose to. But even Akinfenwa wasn't that good. He's not that much of a machine. They played well, but they'll take that into the League One. They'll be encouraged. They can bounce back up if they can do it. They got their team spirit. But at the end of the day, it's only 1 point out, so I don't mind it. It's not too bad, and we'll get some added points for that. So I'm quite happy with that, to be fair. So that means that it's just the -1 we've missed out on for Wycombe. Now we're talking the relegation spots in 22nd. Surely we must have got this right. Come on, give it to me. I want it. I want it now.
Hear me out. Wycombe last season, their team spirit, their commitment, also their manager, I rate him, but their squad wasn't even the best squad, but they just got the most out of those players. They just pulled together and defied the odds. They're in the Championship for the first time in their history, and I think they will keep themselves up in this division. Now, it's a tough one to call. I think it'll be tight between them and the likes of maybe Barnsley, but...
Did you just say Barnsley? Nah, I'm gone. Wait, play it back, people.
Enough for Wycombe, and they'll just scrape through. And if anyone can keep them up, imagine if it's Akinfenwa. That would just be absolute scenes. But genuinely, I do like Wycombe's team, and they have some good, influential midfielders in there to do the job. So maybe they'll go down, but I think they'll just scrape it. Then in 22nd position, we are going to go with Barnsley. Now,
oh, yeah, I knew it coming. I knew it was coming. That's a shocker. I've had a shocker there, but so has everyone else. Look back at the predictions. I bet everyone's gone with Barnsley to be in the relegation battle, maybe. They only just stayed up under Gerard Struber. That's the thing. It's just what can you say? Struber left, and then it just popped off for Barnsley. They just went on this amazing run. So, yeah, that is a prediction shocker, but I couldn't have called that, could I? Barnsley, the surprise package of the season, 100%. And yeah, fair enough, Barnsley. In fact, the team that finished in that position of 23rd was Rotherham United. And yeah, it wasn't great, was it? It really wasn't. I think we've missed out one of the columns. Oh dear. What have we done? Right, so Birmingham Yeah. Then Bristol City. Yeah. Then Huddersfield. Then Derby. Oh, yeah, we missed out Wycombe. Oh, dear. That's a bit of a shame. So, Wycombe was in... Oh, yeah, Wycombe and then Derby. Oh, what have I done? Hang on, what have we done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Oh, this is confusing, man. Wycombe. Oh, no, I've still done it right. I've done it right. Relax yourself. Right. So, we actually did put in 22nd Barnsley. I mean, that is ridiculous. When you think about the fact they finished 5th and they got to a playoff semi-final, just madness. But we couldn't have known that. So instead, in 22nd, it was Wycombe. That's how it ended. Wycombe were relegated, as we mentioned before, but yeah, they were unlucky. I think they just couldn't get the points they needed, and it was always going to be a tough ask. So in 22nd, we actually went with Barnsley. This is going to be our worst one of the whole table, basically. So yeah, this is not good. So Barnsley finished in a position of 5th. I mean, not even 6th, just as a consolation. It's 5th. Oh dear. 22nd is what we went with. Oh, that's just depressing, man. I just don't believe it. I just actually don't believe it. It's just like, how? How have we done that? I mean, Barnsley stayed up, but how have Barnsley gone and finished 5th? I mean, that just jumps all over and stamps all over my predictions, doesn't it? Just when you think you're getting some momentum. You know, 1.1 position away from Wycombe. Get Birmingham bang on. Get Blackburn bang on. But no, Barnsley have to come along and spoil it. Oh, dearie me. It is what it is. 17 difference. To be fair, it's not far off Derby, so maybe I can't complain. But we basically got Derby and Barnsley the wrong way round. I mean, Derby actually stayed up. That's the difference. But yeah, you hate to see it. You really do at this point in time. All right, let's move on very quickly. Now it's Luton Town we predicted. Okay, this was more hopeful than anything else, to be honest. We mentioned it before, but let's hear what my past self has to say about it.
Barnsley, not the best of seasons last time. They've had that manager come in and save them, but will they be that lucky this time? Not in my opinion. I think they need to improve, really. I just don't see it where they're going to strengthen, really. So, yeah, sorry, Barnsley fans, but I think you're going to be in League One next season. But maybe I'll get proven wrong. We don't know. In 23rd, I'm going to go with Luton Town. Now, Luton, you stayed up. Fair play to you. But this season, I don't think you'll be so lucky. I think Luton, their team, decent. James Collins, their talisman. But can you keep it up for a whole season? Not in my opinion. It's just one of those things. That's what I think will happen. So maybe it will. Then we have the final position. It is 24th. So who do I think will finish rock bottom?
So let me just go over Luton. Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. All right, it was a bit of a mess. Allow it, Luton fans. But yeah, it was wishful thinking. Let's be honest. We didn't use much of our. But Luton were in a bad position, like financially back then, and you know, I just thought they stayed up. Fair enough. The previous season, maybe they wouldn't be so lucky this time. But fair enough. You did. Finish 12th. So instead, in 23rd, the team that finished there was in fact Rotherham United. So Rotherham, bad season. You got to feel for the manager, but it just didn't play well enough. It's as simple as that. And in the big games as well, I remember Coventry away, playing away to Rotherham, and that was a 6-pointer, and they lost that, Rotherham. So they need to do their best in the League One, but it is what it is. Luton, not great, to be honest. Oh dear, we started typing the wrong bit. Of course we have. Oh, this is an absolute logistical nightmare. Right. We'll get there in the end, people. Bear with. Right, Luton. Luton finished in 12th. So that means, my friends, we have gone and done it by 11. 11 plus 11, Luton. Sorry for underestimating you, but I'm a Watford fan. I'm supposed to. Right, and finally, we've got 24th. Can we at least get this one right? Please. Well, you've probably looked at all the teams and thought, no, you're not getting it right. I've calculated it.
Of the Championship 2020 to 21 table, I think Coventry City.
Okay. Well, they at least went down. They didn't even go down. Okay. All right. That's how it ends. It's not good. It's not good at all. Instead, it was Sheffield Wednesday that went down and finished rock bottom. Oh dearie me. I mean, like I said, the minus hit, the deduction didn't help, but I didn't think that would mean they'd finish bottom. That wasn't because of the deduction, but they just didn't have the form. They didn't have it. Wherever they could find it, they couldn't find it. And Coventry, of course, did do very well, stayed up. So that wraps up this very long video. I hope you have joined all the way. Keep the faith, because it's a football feast. I'm not going to just scratch the surface. I'm going to cover every prediction and not leave a single stone untouched and, unravelled, if you get what I mean. Unturned, I think that's the phrase. But anyway, with that final prediction for Sheffield Wednesday, actually the reality, Coventry we thought would be bottom. And Coventry, we got that wrong by a fairly decent margin, to be fair. -8. Oh dear. So Coventry finishing 8 places better than what we thought. But there we are. We're done, people. Thanks for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. Smash a like on the video. It does take a long time to make and film and all of that stuff. And we're done with our little juicy little table. So this is what is the final standings in terms of how we got on. I hope you can see that, guys. That is it. Final table done. Lovely jubbly. There we are, people. I mean, we had mixed success. We got 3 correct, bang on the money. We will take it. I'm going to go to bed, to be honest. No, I'm joking. I will see you later. Smash a like on it. Bye-bye, guys. Championship season done and dusted.